Seeker, written by Suzana Thompson, performed by Heather Firth. Chapter 49. We watched the sunset that evening. The sky is awash in blue and pink as the orange orb appears to sink into the ocean. The moment is so perfect in its beauty that I'm already feeling nostalgic for it. I want to see the sunrise tomorrow. I insist, like he'll deny me. We shall see it, he promises me. He is holding my hand, and he smiles tenderly at me in the dimming light. I want to spend every sunset and sunrise with you. I'm feeling the same way, and we spend the rest of our honeymoon enjoying the beautiful tropical scenery together. We also make love every day, and our ardor continues when we return home. Now that we're allowed to have sex, we're taking full advantage of it. I look forward all day to our intimate evenings in our apartment. I start searching for a job right after our honeymoon. I've already got my GED, but I have no plans to go to college. I want to be a stay-at-home mom after our children are born. Bible college is only 2 years, so Silas only has a year left before he gets his degree. He says that he'll get a job while he waits for a position at a church. He's even mentioned construction work. Construction? I questioned dubiously. That seems like hard work. You should pick something easier than that. The wages are good, he said. I need to make enough money to support my family. Jesus was a carpenter, he reminded me. If manual labor was good enough for Jesus, it's good enough for me. I couldn't argue with that, but I had come to believe that Silas was destined to preach. We attended church every Sunday, and we discussed his Bible studies when he came home from class. I tell him about my new job at a nearby fast food restaurant. It's perfect, because it is within walking distance of our apartment. I'm glad that we won't need another car, since I am now aware of the living expenses my dad warned me about. We have more money than most people our age, but we are slowly chipping away at our savings. If the balance keeps dropping, we'll eventually run out of money. My paycheck isn't enough to cover our expenses by itself. I see why Silas is talking about getting a job in construction. Don't worry about anything, Silas tells me. God will provide for us. I think about how Silas gained an inheritance from a man he had never met, and I trust God to provide help if we need it. Silas surprises me with tickets to a Taylor Swift concert. We play her CD during the drive there and sing along to You Belong With Me. We are as thrilled to be at the show as any of her diehard fans, and we have the best time ever. It's so much more fun than the concert we went to when we were dating. We are in a joyful mood as we walk out to the parking lot after the show. Did you like it as much as you thought you would? I ask. More, he declares. Everything with you is more. More special, more fun, more wonderful. You make life wonderful, Mila. Aww, a girl beside us gushes. That's so romantic. I smile at her. Yeah, I agree. You're so lucky to have such a great boyfriend, she tells me. He's actually my husband, I reply. But I am lucky. Oh, she says as she glances at him and back at me. She exchanges a look with her friend. How old are you? She questions me. I'm 18, I answer, and he's 19. She clearly thinks it's odd that we're already married, but she doesn't remark on it. My coworkers were also surprised about my marital status. People don't question it when young couples live together, but they can't understand getting married at 18. I love being married, though. It feels so right to wake up next to my husband. I wouldn't feel the same about sharing a bed with him if we weren't married. I also feel right with God this way. After God saved Justin, I felt the desire to show my gratitude by living my life according to the guidance of the Bible. Since Silas is already devoted to God, his lifestyle is conducive to my goals to become a better Christian. I always used to consider this kind of lifestyle boring, but it has actually enhanced my life. There is more love and contentment in my heart than I've ever felt before. I'm not concerned with how people perceive me, because I feel the acceptance of God. The more that I read the Bible, the more aware I am of God's presence in my life. I noticed the people that He sent to me. Silas is the most obvious, but even Tara helped to change my perspective on faith. I had dismissed her as overzealous until I got to know her a little better and understood how she strove to stay true to her faith. Shelby is also a believer, but her more temperate personality is what I needed after the devastating loss of Chloe. There is also Michael, who has become like family to me and Silas. He comes over almost every Friday and has dinner with us. He always brings dessert, and we spend the evening playing Monopoly. It has turned into a fun tradition for us, so it's how we tell him our news. Instead of using one of the game pieces, I set a plastic baby stroller on the board. It's from a cheap set of baby shower favors. Michael stares at it before glancing at our smiling faces. "You're pregnant?" he asks me. "Yes," Silas and I exclaim in unison. A huge smile breaks out over his face. "Congratulations!" "Thank you," we reply. "We just found out yesterday," I explain. "I took a pregnancy test last weekend, but they confirmed it for sure at the doctor's office today. We are driving out tomorrow to tell my parents." "Guys, that's wonderful," Michael says. "I'm so happy for you." "We are happy too," Silas tells him as he's beaming with happiness. I'm not sure if my parents will be, I confess. They weren't too keen on us getting married. "Trust me on this. They'll be thrilled to have a grandchild," Michael assures us. "Even if they're not happy about it at first, they'll love the baby once it's born. They'll be spoiling that kid in no time." I have a feeling that he's right, and I'm too happy to worry about it anyway. There is nothing in this world that could make me happier than having this baby. I didn't even know that this much joy was possible. I felt like I was walking on sunshine when Silas and I left the doctor's office. It was the best feeling ever, and I imagine that only the birth of our child will be able to top it. Mom and Dad are less excited about it, but they aren't unhappy about it either. "A baby," Mom says, with a mixture of wonder and disbelief. "Do you have health insurance?" Dad inquires, but his expression is softer than the practical tone of his question. "Yes," Silas replies. "I purchased it when we returned from our honeymoon." "Thank goodness for small favors," Dad says in response. There is nothing small about the price. I argued with Silas over spending $400 a month on health insurance for the two of us, but he insisted that it was worth it. He told me that even a short hospital stay could cost us thousands of dollars. I knew that was the case with Justin, and that my parents said they would have gone bankrupt without health insurance. No price would have been too much for saving Justin's life, my mom had fervently added. My brother seems to be completely unaffected by our pregnancy news. "You're going to be an uncle?" I prompt. "Yeah," he responds without any apparent interest in the subject. I'm hoping that he'll care more when the baby is born. Since I don't look pregnant yet, nothing seems different to him. He's not feeling connected to this baby the way I am. It doesn't really exist for him at this point. Maybe when we find out if we're having a boy or a girl, it'll become a real baby to him. "How was your vacation with Uncle Dave?" I ask, instead of trying to engage him in a conversation about the baby. He brightens and speaks with enthusiasm. "It was great. He took me to the Grand Canyon. We went on a helicopter tour and a jeep tour and on the skywalk. We even rode mules down into the canyon and stayed at the Phantom Ranch." "That's so dangerous," Mom remarks in displeasure. "You didn't need to go down inside it." "It's safe," Justin argues. "The mules know where to walk better than people do." "I know of no fatalities involving the mule rides," Silas says. That's a significant statement coming from him. "Justin is fine," I add. "He had fun, and he has some great memories of his trip." "And great pictures," Dad tells us. "The views are spectacular. People have fallen over the edge while posing for pictures," Silas informs us. "We don't need to talk about that," I state. "Show us the pictures," I urge Justin. He obliges, and I can see how happy he was on his adventure. I'm glad that he had his own amazing summer vacation. I had my honeymoon, and he got to go on a trip with Uncle Dave. My brother and I are no longer spending family vacations together. I realize that I don't have summer vacations anymore. I'm out of school and I'm married. My family vacations will now be spent with Silas and our child, rather than with my parents and my brother. My life is now separate from theirs. They have adjusted to daily life without me, and I feel that separation in this moment and understand the necessity of it. My child will grow up and go out into the world. I think of that Bible passage that states that a couple will leave their parents to live as one together. Silas and I have joined our lives and are now living as a unit. We are also creating our own little family. God has taken the place of my parents, because I can't rely on them for everything anymore. I can always rely on God, though, and I feel comforted by that knowledge. I feel like God sends me people to encourage me and give me advice. I meet Michael's sister-in-law 4 months into my pregnancy. We are still continuing our Friday evening Monopoly games, and Michael's brother and his wife join us one weekend when they are in town visiting Michael. They have 3 kids, and she tells me that she gave birth to the last 2 at home. She didn't like her hospital experience when she gave birth to her first child. "They had me hooked up to an IV and to all of these machines. I couldn't even move," she complains. "It was so much more natural and relaxed at home with a midwife." I'm intrigued by this option, and I remember Shelby mentioning it too. "How do you find a midwife?" "I'll give you the information," she says. "But right now, I'm buying Boardwalk." She ends up winning the game, because she has the most money when we call it quits 2 hours later. We are rarely able to finish a game, but we always have a lot of fun playing. We invite them to come over again the next time they are in town, and they invite us to visit them in North Carolina. Silas and I discuss the home birth idea after they leave. We have an appointment for an ultrasound in a few days, and we're excited about finding out the sex of the baby. My pregnancy has been free from complications so far. Even my morning sickness was mild. I've been walking around in a perpetual state of happiness, and my boss has nicknamed me Smiley. People remark that I have the pregnancy glow. "You're so lucky," one of my coworkers tells me. "I was sick to my stomach for 3 months straight. I couldn't have worked here with the smell of all this food all day long. It would have made me puke my guts out." My appetite has been normal, and my doctor told me that it's a myth that you have to eat for 2. "There are minimal requirements for extra calories, and that's later in the pregnancy. If you eat a normal amount of food, you'll be fine. Just don't try to restrict calories," he cautioned me. Silas has surprised me by knowing how to cook. "I found the cooking channel when I lived in Jack's apartment." he explained. Then I found recipe sites on my computer. He has actually done more of the cooking since we've been married than I have. I'm used to cooking, he told me, and I like cooking. I didn't get to do anything like this before. In some ways, he's like a little kid playing at being a grown-up. Nothing is a chore to him, because it's all fairly new in his experience. He's been an observer of life, but now he has first-hand experience. We still make love, but it is gentle and unhurried. Instead of being overcome by intense passion, we savor the feel of each other's bodies with slow, lingering caresses. My climax builds slowly, and I'm completely relaxed afterwards. My love for Silas has grown, and I realize now that I didn't fall in love with him until our honeymoon. I felt affection for him, but passion made me fall in love with him. His caring and tenderness since then has made my love for him grow into something deeper than passion. I can no longer imagine being married to anyone else. We drive out again to tell my parents the news in person. When the ultrasound reveals that we're having a boy, their excitement is unrestrained this time, and even Justin is showing more interest. Just as I thought, this has made the baby more real to them. They also have a visual reminder of him when they see my expanding stomach. Shelby comes over to see me later, and she reassures me about my decision to have a home birth. My cousin did that with both her kids, she says. The first one too? I question, although that's what her words indicated. Yeah, she confirms. The doctor said it was okay as long as they were healthy pregnancies. That is the same thing that my doctor told me, but he still recommended that I give birth in the hospital, where my baby could have access to immediate medical care if he needed it. I'm going to pray on it, I decide, remembering Mrs. Perkins' advice about making important decisions. That's a good idea, Shelby agrees. So, I begin, how are things with you and Mason? Is he still calling you? Yeah, once in a blue moon, she replies with a shrug. We'll talk for 2 hours straight sometimes, but then I won't hear from him for a month or two. He doesn't even answer my texts, but then he'll tell me that he misses me when he calls. Just as I'm about to respond to that, she startles me with a confession. Something happened that I didn't tell you about. Mason kissed me. He did? I exclaim. When? Why didn't you tell me? She glances at my closed bedroom door like she's worried about someone eavesdropping on us. We are sitting on my bed, where I haven't slept since I got married. More happened, Shelby says as she stares down at my bedspread and nervously tugs at it. We almost had sex, she finishes in a near whisper. I'm shocked by this development. Almost? I question, thinking that she's exaggerating. We went to his house after you left for your honeymoon, she begins to explain. But he went home after the restaurant. I interrupt her. He showed up here later, she replies. It was after you already left. Michael was going to drop me off at home on his way out of town, but Mason showed up and said that he would drive me home. She pauses before continuing. When he asked me if I wanted to go to his house, I knew what he was really asking me. He even told me that his parents weren't home. She looks directly at me. It was love at first sight for me when I met him that night by his pool. I don't even know how to describe it to you, Mila, because it was so powerful and intense. It was like being struck by lightning. One minute I was living my normal life, and the next minute I got run over by a bus. You don't make it sound very romantic, I remark. Because it's not candlelight and flowers, she says. It's overwhelming and scary, but exhilarating at the same time. Like skydiving. I knew that it was crazy to even think about it. He had a girlfriend and he was going away to college. But now he doesn't have a girlfriend, I prompt, wanting to hear the rest of the story. I was thinking about him for that whole year after I met him. I couldn't stop thinking about him. Even though I knew that he would probably never be interested in me, the feelings just wouldn't go away. I'd only seen him that one time, but I couldn't get him out of my mind. That's love, isn't it? When all you think about is that person. I'm not sure. It seems stronger than lust, because I don't think that lust could be sustained for such a long duration without having any contact with that person. Yet it's hard to believe that someone could fall in love so quickly. You're in love with him? I question her. I know it doesn't make sense, she admits. But I am. I've never felt this way before about anyone, and I don't think I'll ever feel this way again. That's why everything got so out of control. I wasn't planning for it to go so far. I just wanted him to kiss me. A lot. I was going to tell him to stop after I got those kisses, but I didn't. She looks down at the bedspread again as she blushes. It was more than how good it felt. I realized that I wanted it to be with him, and that I would never want to be with anyone else. Even if it was the only time, I still wanted to have that with him. My heart is breaking for her, and I'm furious with Mason for taking advantage of her feelings. He did the exact thing I told him not to do. But, when he was about to... Her blush deepens as she trails off. I told him that it was my first time. I wasn't even scared, she explains. But I guess I wanted him to know that he was special to me. He got upset, though, and he stopped. He stopped, I repeat in relief. I'm still a virgin, she confirms. Technically, you are, I assure her. I don't really feel like a virgin anymore, she says. Not after going that far with him. He touched me everywhere, she adds in a hushed tone. I scowl as my anger at Mason returns. I told him not to do that. It's not his fault, she states. I let him touch me. I wanted him to, she admits in shame. And I still want him to. It is his fault, I argue. I told him not to start anything with you if he didn't want a relationship. He never promised me a relationship, she says sadly. I didn't even ask him about it. I've heard about temptation, but I never knew it could be so strong. You must think I'm a slut. Don't say that, I exclaim. I would never think that. You did everything the right way, she tells me. You waited until marriage. That was only because Silas wanted to wait, I joke, but it's partially true. And Mason was the one who said no to me, she says in a wry tone. After he seduced you, I remark in displeasure. Wait until I talk to him. No, don't, she pleads. Please, Mila, don't say anything to him. There's a knock on the door. Dinner's ready, Mom calls out. Okay, we're coming. I spring from the bed to open the door so that we can go downstairs with Mom. It's my sneaky way of not having to make a promise of silence to Shelby. I have every intention of yelling at Mason about what he did. Silas and I leave right after dinner, and I call Mason as soon as we get home. There's not much privacy in our small apartment, but I go into our bedroom to make my phone call. Mason answers with an attitude.
Nice of you to tell me about the baby, Mila. I had to hear it from Shelby. Did you finally remember that I'm your friend, too?
You're my friend? I retort. If you were my friend, you'd care about what I say. I told you to stay away from Shelby. And what did you do as soon as my back was turned? How could you treat her that way?
I didn't know she was a virgin,
he says defensively. And if she wasn't, that would have made it okay to use her for sex? I demand in derision.
Not everyone waits until they get married to have sex,
he retorts.
Shelby doesn't have to live her life the same way as you.
Then why didn't you take her virginity? I question, wondering what stopped him if he didn't place any value on waiting until marriage.
That's none of your business, he replies. I don't have to explain myself to you.
What about explaining yourself to Shelby? I inquire. Why are you ignoring her texts?
She couldn't ask me that herself? He begins to rant. She had to get you to.
I cut him off. No, she begged me not to say anything to you.
And you listened as well as you usually do.
He sounds amused now rather than exasperated. I had to talk to you, I insist. She didn't tell me about it until now, because she thought that I would judge her, but I would never do that.
No,
he says, still sounding amused.
You're judging me instead.
I am, I agree. He laughs.
You're one of a kind, Mila.
He laughs again, softer this time.
So, how have you been?
I've been good, I tell him. Really good. I'm just really happy, and I want you to be happy too. What's going on with you, Mason?
I screwed up, he admits. I shouldn't have started anything with Shelby. I just wanted to forget everything for a while, and I knew that she was attracted to me. I thought she knew the score when I told her my parents weren't home. It seemed like she wanted the same thing.
I told you that she wanted a relationship, I remind him in frustration.
I thought that she was putting up a front for you and that she had a secret wild side, he explains. Some girls hide that stuff from their friends. They hook up with random guys, but they don't talk about it with anyone. I've been with a few girls like that.
So she's just another girl to you? I ask him. Then why do you keep calling her?
She's a good listener, he replies.
Then why don't you answer her texts? I demand.
I don't know, he says. I guess I want her to move on and forget about me.
But you call her, I say, omitting the part about him telling her that he misses her.
Yeah, he agrees. She always answers her phone.
Mason, I chide him. How is she supposed to forget about you if you keep calling her?
I guess nobody really wants to be forgotten, he remarks.
You can't have it both ways, I argue. Either talk to her or don't talk to her at all. Don't ignore her and then call her whenever you feel like it. That's not fair to her.
I know, he says. I'll stop calling her, I promise.
That's not the answer I was hoping for, but it's better than him continuing to string her along. She claims to be in love with him, and she'll be heartbroken when she realizes that his calls have stopped permanently. It's still better than giving her false hope. He changes the subject.
So you're having a baby. Are you going to find out if it's a girl or a boy?
It's a boy, I reply. Shelby didn't tell you that?
I haven't talked to her recently. She told me you were pregnant the last time we talked.
He reveals.
I think that was about a month ago. I've been waiting for you to at least text me about it. You don't ever go on Facebook anymore.
I hadn't been on it since my friends died. except for that one time when I accepted Shelby's friend request. It would have been too painful for me at the time, and I haven't regained my interest in posting on there.
Don't be a stranger, Mila.
He admonishes me.
I hope you won't cut me out of your life because of Shelby. I've known you just as long as Tyler did. That should count for something.
It does, I assure him.
I want pictures of the baby,
he tells me.
Did you pick a name yet?
Not yet, I answer. We were waiting to find out if it's a girl or a boy first. We are going to start thinking of boy names now.
Let me know what you decide,
he requests. I will, I tell him. And you can call me if you need to talk.
Okay.
He agrees.
Take care, Mila.
You too, I say. I'm hoping that he'll find his way out of this emotional limbo he seems to be in. Both he and Shelby seem to be stuck and unable to extricate themselves from the situation they've created. My life was in upheaval too before I turned to God's guidance. Now I have found the peace and contentment that I wish for them too.